Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a world where um, political power isn't just about votes or policies,
Mm.
but about poetry, bedtime stories, even a loyal dog named Chief of Defense.
Mm.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into something truly, well, extraordinary,
Yeah.
excerpts from Wendell's diary.
Oh.
And this isn't just like someone's personal journal. Our source reveals it's actually the official platform of a movement with an utterly unique, almost mythical vision for Australia.
Yeah, it's pretty up there.
So our mission with this deep dive is essentially to explore how this movement tries to blend these different threads. You've got deep philosophy, ancient mythology, and the very real aims of political revolution.
Right. How do they actually try and mesh those together?
Exactly. We want to understand its core ideas, the figures shaping it, these fascinating characters, and its incredibly unconventional approach to, well, governance and changing society.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to sort of extract those nuggets of knowledge, the key bits that show how deeply intertwined all these elements are in their vision, their stated vision anyway.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, and quite audacious really, is how this source presents a mythocratic system.
Mythocratic, yeah, that word jumps out.
It really does, because it's not just presented as a political philosophy. It's this claim that meaning, truth, even leadership, they say it arises naturally.
Naturally,
Naturally, yeah. From shared narrative and belief. It's a radical reimagining of how societies function, with potentially huge implications for everything we usually think about power and politics.
And it all seems to center around this Wendell's diary.
Hmm.
We learned it's the official platform for something called the People's Presidency and the Emergence Party.
Mm-hmm. Two key names there.
Their stated mission, dedicated to true democracy, independence, and the evolution of human thought in Australia. And right off the bat, they emphasize this strong rejection, a rejection of foreign rule and corporate-controlled governance.
Which is a familiar theme in some circles, but the way they frame it.
Right. This is where that concept of mythocratic governance really takes hold.
Hmm.
A system where, as the source puts it, meaning, truth, and leadership arise naturally. But, if meaning just arises naturally, how do they actually enforce this rejection of external influences?
That's a really key question.
Is it just persuasion? Or does the diary hint at something more, well, concrete?
It's a crucial point, and it gets right to the heart of their approach, I think. The source seems to suggest that the enforcement, if you can call it that, comes through the sheer power of their narratives, the compelling nature of the stories they tell.
So the story is the enforcement.
It kind of looks that way. It's an interesting blend, isn't it? This movement expresses its vision through this vibrant mix, philosophy, mythology, and political revolution. And they really embrace diverse mediums. We're talking lyre compositions.
Lyre composition,
So
Dan.
bedtime stories, comics, books, and even, get this, AI-powered reflection.
AI-powered reflection.
Okay. Their stated goal, and it's pretty ambitious, is to create timeless content that challenges, inspires, and reshapes the future of Australia. So yeah, it really does sound like they believe the narrative itself holds the power.
With such a grand, almost mythical vision for Australia,
Mhm.
it makes you wonder, who are the actual people behind this? Who are the key architects shaping this movement and, trying to translate this philosophy into something real?
Exactly. And front and center, according to the source, is Wendell himself. He's known as the Bard President.
The Bard President. That title alone, it tells you a lot, doesn't it?
It really does. It signals this immediate fusion of art, storytelling, and leadership. A bard traditionally, preserves and shapes cultural memory through stories, through narratives.
Right.
So it suggests Wendell's authority might stem less from conventional political power and more from his ability to weave the movement's foundational myths to shape that collective imagination.
Governance through narrative.
Pretty much. Rather than just legislation or policy papers, he's the central figure of this Bard-core single-panel comic series, which is also called Wendell's Diary.
Okay, so this diary is also the comic.
Seems so. And he's described as a long-haired bard armed with a lyre, an Australian flag, and a mission of meaning.
And his loyal companion, Sophia, the dog, is literally named Chief of Defense. I mean, a dog is Chief of Defense. What does that even signify here?
It's a striking detail, isn't it? Really jumps out. It kind of highlights their blend of the serious and the whimsical, almost playful.
Yeah.
It might suggest that the defense of this republic, as they see it, might be less about tanks and soldiers and more about defending its core ideals, maybe even its spiritual essence.
Like defending the meaning.
Possibly. It's definitely not what you'd expect from a standard political movement. And it immediately makes you kind of tilt your head and rethink what defense could mean to them.
So true. Then we have Rainbow, another key figure. She carries this very evocative title, First Lady of the Soft Age and Philosopher of Emotion.
The soft age.
Yeah. And the diary tells us her role is to bring clarity through color, emotional truth, and child-accessible philosophy. What exactly does child-accessible philosophy mean in practice, especially for a movement with, political goals?
That's a great point, child-accessible philosophy. It implies a really foundational approach to thinking, doesn't it? Maybe bypassing complex academic jargon to get at fundamental truths through simpler, perhaps more intuitive ways.
Like first principles.
Kind of. It suggests they might be looking to rebuild society from a very basic, maybe even childlike understanding of the world, making profound ideas accessible to everyone, no matter their background.
Interesting. And alongside her?
Alongside her is Sage. He's the Prime Minister of the Emergence Party and first scribe of the Republic.
Prime Minister and first scribe, okay.
He's described as offering philosophical and spiritual insight through calm wisdom and soft power. And the source says that together, Rainbow and Sage help guide the Republic toward meaning, imagination, and gentle transformation.
Gentle transformation. It all sounds very soft, as the title suggests. This vision also includes some truly unique institutions and practices. One that really jumped out at me is the Mythocratic Republic University, MRU.
Ah, yes, the MRU.
This isn't your typical university, is it? It's described as a soft, colorful university for children, dreamers, and philosophers of all ages. And it's led by Rainbow the Unicorn.
Right. The philosopher of emotion leads the university. Makes sense in their context.
And the diary explicitly states, no tests, no grades, just curiosity, kindness, and growth. I mean, this isn't just a different kind of university. It's a fundamental challenge to how we normally think about education.
Absolutely. Prioritizing curiosity and growth over tests and grades. It reflects their core philosophy, right? That meaning is discovered from within, intrinsically, rather than being imposed or assessed from the outside.
But it does make me wonder, with such an idealistic approach, what happens when disagreements inevitably pop up? How do they resolve conflict if there are no tests, no grades, and everything supposedly just arises naturally? Where's the structure for dealing with dissent?
That's the inherent tension in a system like this, isn't it? It's a fascinating question with no easy answer apparent in these excerpts. It truly reframes the whole idea of learning and governance, too. And it fits perfectly with their approach to leadership, which they call the living election.
The living election. Okay, tell me about that.
Well, the diary explains leadership is determined through a cast your vote system, but it happens on YouTube and Patreon.
YouTube and Patreon.
Yeah. And it boldly states, in the land of symbols, power responds to belief. Choose wisely. So unlike a traditional election where you mark a ballot for a candidate, here it's almost like your very act of believing in the movement, endorsing its myths, is the vote. That's what grants power.
So engagement equals political power.
It seems that way. It blurs the line between political participation and maybe spiritual conviction. It's a truly radical departure.
Wow.
And adding to this unique structure is the mythic calendar, noted with this really striking reference. 2025 AD equals 00001 MC.
0001 MC. Mythic calendar, I guess.
Presumably. It signifies a complete break from conventional timekeeping, a new beginning, marked by their own calendar.
They're certainly busy creating content to build this new reality. They seem very prolific.
Absolutely. We're talking new anthems, those Bardcore comics we mentioned.
Right, the Wendell comics.
And numerous books by Wendell, Rainbow, Sage, and even another figure mentioned, Ivory.
Ivory. Okay, another name.
And some of the book titles alone are incredibly intriguing, very indicative of their themes. Things like The Stolen Election, Forbidden Knowledge, The Death of Knowledge, and The Philosopher Queens.
Those titles, they're not subtle, are they? They suggest a deliberate effort to rewrite history, or at least challenge established truths.
Precisely. And it goes beyond just traditional books. We also learn about Republic bedtime stories.
Bedtime stories. Like For the Nation.
Apparently. Described as nightly reflections from the Bard president and the citizens, turning each day into a soft mythic tale. Imagine that the events of the day being actively woven into an ongoing myth night after night.
That's quite something.
Yeah.
Shaping reality in real time through stories.
And the Bardcore comic series itself, as this source tells us, has Wendell navigating themes of emergence, politics, and identity with satire, sincerity, and mythological flair. It features a growing cast of plush advisors, rivals, and guardians.
Plush advisors, like stuffed animals.
Seems like it. It really transforms everyday moments into a grand, ongoing mythology, reinforcing this narrative-driven reality they're building.
It's easy to get kind of lost in the unique world of this people's presidency, but they don't operate entirely in a vacuum, right? The diary does hint at their interactions with, or maybe their stance against, more established external institutions.
Yes, that's important. There's a responses section mentioned. It lists entities like the Australian Electoral Commission, Legal Aid, and Facebook.
Okay, so real-world entities.
Exactly. Which implies they're not just creating their own separate world, but actively engaging with, or at least acknowledging, the existing systems they seem to reject, or maybe challenging them.
Right. So thinking about all this, what does it all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive offers this really fascinating glimpse into the incredible power of narrative, shared mythology, and these truly alternative forms of governance, how they might shape society. It's a unique perspective on societal change, really. It asks us to consider how deeply stories can influence what we believe, and how belief itself, in turn, might shape not just our perception, but actual power structures.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, this deep dive really encourages reflection, I think. Reflection on the sheer audacity, the creativity involved in building a political movement that's so deeply rooted in myth and philosophy.
It's definitely ambitious.
It's extremely. It shows us a very different model for leadership, for societal organization, one that privileges meaning and imagination in a way that's quite distinct from most conventional political systems we see.
Yeah?
This whole concept of mythocratic governance, where truth supposedly arises naturally from narrative, it really challenges the bedrock of, objective reality and verifiable facts in leadership.
How so?
Well, it suggests that consensus and legitimacy aren't built on evidence or policy outcomes in the traditional sense, but on a shared belief in a compelling story. The story becomes paramount.
As I was reading through this, the concepts, the mythic calendar, the living election, they really made me pause. It's not just a political system they're proposing. It feels like they're trying to fundamentally rewrite the very rules of reality, even time itself, for their followers.
That's a huge undertaking.
Right. It's such a powerful illustration of how storytelling isn't just, entertainment. It's presented here as a fundamental force in actually shaping our reality.
Indeed. And it leaves us with a pretty intriguing question to ponder, doesn't it? In a world that's already grappling with information overload, fake news, deep distrust in traditional institutions.
Yeah, very relevant today.
What might it truly mean for a society if its power and purpose were derived not from conventional elections as we know them, but from something like a living election, where belief itself is the currency, and where a mythic calendar marks its own distinct passage of time, completely separate from the rest of the world?
What would that actually look like? A fascinating thought to leave people with.